I'm Noelle Strick, and I live my life between waveforms. Philadelphia is the kind of city that hums at night, trolley wires whining, the L rattling like a broken snare, neighbors yelling about parking cones like it's a sport. It's perfect for a sound designer. The good stuff hides in the noise floor. By day, I build worlds inside headphones for podcasts you've probably listened to without thinking about the crackle of a fireplace that isn't real or the heartbeat that made you cry at minute 23. By night, I walk home down Girard with my beanie pulled low, collecting sounds like postcards, a squeaky gate, a church bell with a flat E, footsteps in the tunnel that echo in perfect quarter notes. I'm 27. I rent a studio apartment above a bakery that wakes me at 4 a.m. And I believe in two things. I thought that was enough. The first time I met him, he said, "You're the secret sauce." His name was Marcus Vale, and he wore a scarf like a warning label. He produced a slick narrative show out of a small company with a fancy name, Monarch Audio, and a horizon-wide Instagram presence. We shook hands in a glass conference room that sounded terrible. No acoustic treatment. Hard reflections. I hated it immediately. "Your reels are insane," he said, sliding his laptop around to show me my own website. "We want the Strick sound. Gritty but cinematic. Like, the city as an instrument." I smiled because this is what I do. And because rent is due every month like it's surprised each time. We agreed on terms. Freelance. Per episode rate, plus a bump for dialogue cleanup and original scoring. A tidy little email thread that felt like a handshake you could file. "Final approval by producer," he added, almost as an afterthought. "Sure," I said. I should have noticed the asterisk. The first episode was about a boxing gym on 52nd and Market. I spent days there, recording late-night jump rope clicks and the hiss of sweat on canvas. I interviewed an old trainer whose voice sounded like gravel pouring into a tin bucket. I made a bass line out of a speed bag. When I turned in the mix, it was tight enough to cut glass. Marcus replied with fireworks emojis and the word, "chef's kiss." It dropped. The response was huge. My phone lit up with listeners saying it felt like they were in the gym. Toes on the line, jaw clenched, ready to move. Monarch posted a glossy behind-the-scenes photo of Marcus in front of a console he definitely didn't know how to turn on. Caption: "Producer at Marcus Vale, shaping the sound you're obsessed with. No tag for me." It stung, but it was one post in a week of posts. I let it go. It's a big show, I told myself. They'll get to me. The second episode was a profile of a Philly poet who writes under bridges. I layered the Schuylkill's winter wind with the shudder of old SEPTA cars, and I tucked a faint subway rhythm under his words, so it felt like they were carrying the city on their backs. Marcus sent back 2 notes. 1. Can we make it more vibey? 2. Can we lower the breathing? I lowered the breathing. I added a synth pad like Frost. It dropped. Again, the post credited Marcus. Again, no tag for me. I emailed him. "Hey, could you credit sound design plus mix to me in the post? People like knowing who does audio." He replied with a winking emoji. "Totally. Scheduling posts now. You're a rock star." The post went up the next day. Sound by Monarch Audio. My name wasn't there. Okay, annoying. But I'm a freelancer who likes being paid on time, and the invoices were clearing fast. I muted their Instagram and focused on my sessions. I kept my backups. I kept my receipts. 3 months in, I walked into my favorite coffee shop, climbed onto a stool, and ordered a cortado. When a voice came through the speaker overhead, warm and familiar, a scene I knew beat by beat, a breath I had personally surgically removed. The boxing gym episode. But the title was different. It wasn't Monarch's show. It was a new chart climber with a massive network behind it. The network had a neon logo and a reputation for discovering talent that already existed. The host's laugh bounced off the tiles. I froze. A guitar swell entered at exactly 3:14, the one I'd written after 2 in the morning with cold fingers, and a neighbor pounding the ceiling because my keyboard was too loud. I could sing that swell in my sleep. I did, quietly, in the coffee shop, just to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. When the credits rolled, they said, Produced and sound designed by Marcus Vale. I left the cortado and walked out into air that was colder than I'd remembered. The city sounded different. Louder. Harsher. I put my headphones on, pulled up the episode, scrubbed to the gym scene, and compared it to the version I'd delivered to Monarch months ago. The waveforms were identical. They hadn't even changed the limiters. My stomach dropped in 3 stages. First, the panic. Then, the anger. Finally, the clarity. I opened my laptop on a bench with a view of a mural where a woman with blue hair looked like she understood. My archive is meticulous. Every session lives in a folder with dates, takes, stems, mix prints, and versions. I pulled up the Pro Tools session for Southpaw City. Consolidated tracks. Markers with notes like, cut hum at 60 hertzes, and leave the trainer's cough, it's human. My name sat in the header like a watermark. I took screenshots. I exported the mix again, so I knew the time code and checksum would match the upload. Then I searched Marcus's name. He'd posted a video of himself in a dim studio, gesturing at a screen. Getting gritty with the sound on this week's episode, he said. In the corner of the screen, if you paused at the right second, you could see my session open. My track names. L Subway Bass, Jump Rope, High Clicks, Shoe Squeak Verb. I've never felt a combination of insult and gratitude like that. Is this man stupid? Or is this how sure he is that credit doesn't matter? I messaged him. Hey Marcus, I just heard Southpaw City on the Neon Network show. It's my mix. Credited to you. We need to fix this immediately. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared. Finally, a reply. Hey Noelle, so industry thing. Neon wanted my name on it for continuity. We all win. Your invoices get bigger. Trust me. Industry thing, he said. Like theft was a genre. My fingers were shaking. I typed, deleted, typed again. I remembered the first time I realized sound could lie, could collapse time, and stretch truth. I had promised myself to use that power to make people feel, not to erase people. I didn't hit send. I closed the message and called Kiera instead. She's a host I'd mixed for when she was indie smart, careful, the kind of person who makes a spreadsheet to plan a picnic. She picked up on the second ring. What's wrong? She said. I told her everything in one long run-on sentence. Do you have proof? She asked. Yes, then breathe, she said. We're not going to scream. We're going to document. I breathed. I started a new folder called Marcus. I dropped screenshots. I wrote a timeline. I pulled waves and session saves. I found the email thread where he said, your reels are insane, and we want the strict sound, and final approval by producer, which suddenly felt like permission to bulldoze me. Kiera said, you know what you have? Community. I'll put out feelers. Don't put out anything, I said, suddenly scared. He could blacklist me. She laughed, not unkindly. Noelle, you're not a bar stool. You can't be blacklisted from being necessary. When we hung up, I was lighter and heavier at the same time. I walked home with my hood up, the city scraping against itself. At my apartment, I made tea I didn't drink. I stood at my desk where the wood is worn smooth by my forearms and opened my laptop like it was a stage. I wrote Marcus. Another message. Credit matters. You don't get to sell my work as yours. I'm asking you, one last time, to correct the credits and notify Neon. He replied in exactly 4 minutes. Legal is handling it. Please don't post anything reactive. It could get messy for you. Remember the NDA. The NDA. I scrolled back and found it, attached to an early email like a sticker. I remembered signing it in a hurry before a dentist appointment because the scheduler called my name and I'd been waiting for 40 minutes. I opened the PDF. Read the clauses. A non-disparagement line. A line about confidentiality. A line about work for hire, which made my skin prickle. Did I sign away authorship? No, I knew better. I scanned every line with the precision of a crossfade. There it was, tucked into a paragraph like a splinter. Contractor agrees that all work product, including but not limited to mixes, stems, and session files, shall be considered work made for hire, with all rights, title, and interest assigned to company. My chest tightened like a compressor with the ratio set too high. I had signed it. But I also knew what was mine. The raw records of how the sausage was made. The stems, the sessions, the proof. The way communities listen when one of their own says, "This isn't right." I looked at the blank tweet draft. At the folder, named Marcus. At the icon of a cloud backup that had just ticked green, I whispered, "Okay. If he wants to live by paper, I'll live by playback." I opened a new project on my personal site. A hidden page. A quiet direction where I could upload the session files for Southpaw City, with the track names visible, and a log that matched the release. Not to leak. To timestamp. To show work. I typed a title, Provenance. I uploaded the session file. My cursor hovered over Publish. My phone buzzed. A DM from someone I barely knew, an engineer in Brooklyn, landed like a hand on my shoulder. "Hey, off record, heard something. Marcus is shopping your mixes as templates to a network you want to work with. He's saying he can bottle your sound." Templates. Bottle. My name without me. The tea on my desk had gone cold. I thought about the mural woman with blue hair watching me with that permanent, painted patience. I thought about all the quiet people who make loud things and get erased from the liner notes. Then I heard it under the city noise, under my own pulse, the click of a plan snapping into place. I moved my cursor. I took a breath, and someone knocked on my door. A slow, deliberate knock that didn't belong to my neighbor, or the bakery guy, or a friend. 3 beats. Silence. 3 beats. I looked through the peephole. Marcus Vale, scarf and all, stood in the yellow hallway light, smiling like a brand. "Hey, Noelle," he said through the door, as if we were already in a conversation. "Can we talk?" My hand hovered over the deadbolt. Do I open the door, or do I hit publish? I didn't open the door, not right away. Marcus's voice floated through the wood, like static, muffled, but perfectly recognizable. That fake friendly tone I used to mistake for confidence. "Come on, Noelle," he said, dragging out the vowels. "You know how this looks if you overreact. Let's talk." Overreact. That word hit me like feedback in an empty room. I stayed silent. He knocked again, slower this time, as if testing a mic check. "We're adults, right? You and me? We can keep this between us." I finally spoke through the door. "You stole my work," he chuckled. Actually chuckled. "Stole? That's not how this industry works, Noelle. You signed a work for hire, you got paid. You can't take ownership of something that isn't yours. Let's not make this ugly." Ugly. I gripped the doorknob, every muscle in my arm tense. "You're on my property, Marcus. Leave." There was a pause. Then his voice softened, almost fatherly. "You're emotional. I get it. I've seen this before, talented people get attached. But if you start throwing accusations around, you'll burn bridges you didn't even know existed." Something inside me snapped. "Marcus," I said quietly, "I build bridges for a living. You just walk over them." Then I locked the second deadbolt. He sighed, a long exhale that said more than any words could. "Fine," he muttered. "Suit yourself. Don't say I didn't try." His footsteps faded down the hallway. I waited another full minute before I exhaled. My hands were shaking, but my mind had finally gone still the way it does before I drop a perfectly timed reverb tail. I sat at my desk, staring at the still open webpage titled Provenance, Publish. My finger hovered again, but I stopped. Kiara's words echoed. "Don't scream document." If I posted now, it would look emotional, reactive, and Marcus was counting on that. He wanted to frame me as unstable, so I wouldn't scream. I'd build a signal chain. The next morning, I met Kiara at a diner in Northern Liberties. She was halfway through a cup of burnt coffee, scrolling through her iPad when I sat down. "You look like you didn't sleep," she said. I didn't. She turned the screen toward me. "You're not crazy, look." It was an article producer Marcus Vale takes Neon Network by storm. The quote made my stomach flip. "My goal," Marcus said, "is to design immersive audio experiences that make listeners feel like they're standing in the story." Design. Immersive. My language. Word for word. "I can't believe this," I said, staring at his smug headshot. Kiara leaned in. I've been in this industry long enough to know one thing. Paperwork is armor. You have receipts, right? Every session file, every timestamp. Good. Then don't go public yet. Let him talk himself into a corner first. I nodded, half listening, half plotting. What if I uploaded the raw session data somewhere private? Something timestamped? Verifiable? She raised an eyebrow. Like a backup? Like evidence. Back at my studio that afternoon, I uploaded everything to a private Git repository, a trick I'd picked up from a coder ex-boyfriend who said, if you want to prove you made something first, let the cloud notarize it for you. Each session file was hashed and time-stamped. Immutable. Undeniable. Then I reached out to a few trusted sound engineers in a private Discord channel, people who actually cared about credit. I posted one message. Hypothetical question. If a producer repackaged your mix and sold it to a major network, what would you do? Within 5 minutes, replies flooded in. Happens all the time. Sue. Blast them publicly. Depends who they are, names? I didn't drop his name yet. Not until I was ready. But word travels fast in small industries. That night, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something told me to answer. Hello? Noelle Strick? Yes. This is Dana Patel, legal counsel for Neon Network. My spine stiffened. I'm calling regarding your communications with Marcus Vale and certain audio assets in question. He's expressed concern that you're distributing proprietary materials belonging to Monarch Audio. I haven't distributed anything, I said evenly, but the materials are mine. Miss Strick, she said, clipped and professional. If you release or share any content tied to Neon or Monarch without authorization, we will consider it a breach of contract and take legal action. I swallowed. Are you aware that Marcus didn't create the mixes he sold you? A pause. I'm not in a position to discuss that, she said. But I would advise against any public statements. Then I advise you, I said, my voice trembling just slightly, to check the metadata on his project files. And I hung up. After the call, I recorded a voice memo, something I do when my thoughts start colliding. Day 3. Marcus sent a lawyer. He's scared. Good. Proof is a frequency it hums, even when people try to bury it. I just have to amplify it. The next morning, my inbox was full of whispers. A producer from Chicago. Hey, heard what happened with Monarch. If you ever need work, I've got gigs. A podcast editor. Marcus ripped my sound design last year. You're not alone. By noon, 3 more DMs, all with similar stories. A pattern. A frequency. Marcus had built his whole career on other people's work. And everyone just let him. That night, Kiara called again. Listen, she said. I talked to a friend at Neon. Off record, they're starting to realize something's off. He can't produce at your level without help, and he's been missing deadlines. You've got leverage. Leverage isn't justice, I said. It's noise. Then turn it into music. That line stuck in my head for hours. Turn it into music. So I did. I opened a new Pro Tools session and imported all my archived mixes, boxing gym, poet, street scenes, every stolen sound that Marcus had claimed as his own. Then I layered something new on top. A heartbeat. Mine. Recorded with a cheap contact mic against my wrist. Underneath, I whispered every phrase Marcus had used to justify it all. Industry thing. We all win. Don't make it ugly. I distorted them, reversed them, turned them into percussion. Then I named the session Echo Chamber. It wasn't just a project. It was a message. A soundscape that told the truth in a language Marcus couldn't fake. And when I played it back through my studio monitors, it felt like an exorcism. The next morning, I uploaded a 15-second teaser to my SoundCloud. A single waveform animation, captioned, "When they steal your voice, make them hear it." I didn't tag anyone, didn't name names, just sound. But within hours, my mentions exploded. People knew. The audio community recognized the fingerprints. Is this about Marcus Vale? Someone asked in the comments. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. That evening, a new email arrived. Subject line: CEA Ace and Desist. Attached, a PDF. From Monarch Audio Legal, the words unauthorized derivative work jumped off the page. But right below that, something I hadn't expected, an attached notice from Neon Network. They were suspending collaboration with Marcus Vale pending investigation. My breath caught. He was unraveling. Kiera texted 10 minutes later. Noelle, check Twitter, now. I did. Marcus had posted a statement, sad to see misinformation spreading. Out of respect for all creatives, I'll be taking a short hiatus to clear things up. The truth always wins. And under that, a photo of him in the same dim studio, pointing at a blank session screen. The comments were a war zone. Half defending him, half tearing him apart. And right in the middle, someone wrote, funny. That waveform in the background looks like at Noelle Strick's session file from Southpaw City, timestamped too. I smiled for the first time in weeks. He wasn't just exposed, he was echoing himself into a corner. Still, something didn't sit right. If Neon had suspended him, why had they called me first? Unless Marcus wasn't done, unless he had one last trick, something worse than stolen credit. And then, as if on cue, another email landed in my inbox, from an anonymous sender. Subject: you're in over your head, Strick. Attachment: a photo of my studio window, taken from across the street. It took me a full minute to move. The photo sat in my inbox like a loaded gun. My studio window glowing amber from my desk lamp, my silhouette bent over my keyboard. Timestamp: 9:42 p.m. That was 10 minutes ago. Someone had been outside, watching. I stood slowly, heart hammering so loud it might have been feeding back through my monitors. The street below looked normal. Cars parked along the curb, the bakery dark, the yellow light of the corner bodega flickering as usual. But there it was, a cigarette ember, floating in the shadows across the street, then gone. I shut the blinds, locked the window, and double-checked the door. Then I did what I always do when panic starts crawling up my spine. I hit record. Voice memo entry 13, I whispered, trying to steady my breathing. Someone's watching me. Anonymous email. No name. Same timestamp as my last upload. Marcus is trying to scare me off. Silence hummed in the background, city noise bleeding through the walls, the faint whir of my external drive. Every sound suddenly felt like a clue. I'd spent my whole career listening for tiny imperfections. Now I was the imperfection in someone else's mix. Kiera came over 20 minutes later, barefoot and furious, clutching her keys like a weapon. You should have called me right away, she said, scanning the room. Did you see who it was? No, I said. Just a glow. A cigarette, maybe. She picked up the photo on my screen and squinted. Could be zoomed from a phone, from a car. You should go to the police. They'll tell me it's a prank, I said. A blurry photo and a hunch? They won't even file it. Then screenshot everything. We'll make our own report. I already had. My folder called Marcus had grown tenfold: emails, waveforms, timestamps. Now a new subfolder. Threats. But under the fear, something colder was starting to form. Resolve. If Marcus wanted to play psychological games, I'd turn his own tactics against him. He believed control meant silence. I'd show him what happens when silence breaks. Over the next few days, I kept working on Echo Chamber, but now it wasn't just an art piece, it was evidence wrapped in sound. Every layer told a story. The hiss of the subway for every stolen mix, the creak of my studio chair when I found the NDA clause, my heartbeat for every sleepless night. Then, halfway through editing, I noticed something strange. A hiss that wasn't mine. I zoomed in on the waveform. It wasn't background noise, it was digital. Someone had inserted a sound into my session file. At first, I thought I was losing it. But when I isolated the layer, reversed it, and slowed it down, I heard a voice. My own. You can't win this, Noelle. My stomach dropped. I checked the project folder. The file modification time was from 2:03 a.m. when I'd been asleep. Someone had remotely accessed my drive. I yanked the Ethernet cable out of my computer so hard it nearly tore. That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the building sounded like footsteps. Every passing car light sliced across my walls like a searchlight. At 4 a.m., I gave up and opened my laptop offline. If Marcus thought he could gaslight me through sound, he underestimated the wrong woman. I traced the file's edit history through the backup metadata. The access IP came from a co-working studio downtown Monarch Audio HQ. Of course, I laughed, short and bitter. He wasn't even subtle. He was desperate. Morning sunlight leaked through the blinds when my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Still think you can outproduce me? I texted back before I could think. I don't have to outproduce you. I just have to show people the real mix. 3 dots. Then, nothing. Kiera insisted I crash at her place for a few nights. Her apartment smelled like coffee and lavender, and her cat decided my laptop bag was a new bed. For the first time in days, I exhaled. We sat on the couch, laptop open between us, replaying Echo Chamber. Halfway through, Kiera said quietly, "This is more than revenge, isn't it?" I nodded. "It's documentation. He controls paper. I control sound." "Not," she smiled. "Then you need one final movement." "Like a finale?" "Exactly. Something that forces people to hear the truth, not read it." The idea hit me like a chord resolving. 3 days later, I reached out to a podcast I trusted, Inside Audio. They did exposés on industry corruption, usually mild stuff, unpaid interns, predatory contracts. This would be bigger. I pitched them anonymously at first. Sent them the waveform comparisons, the metadata proofs, the neon suspension letter. They replied in an hour. "We're interested. Can we interview you on record?" I stared at the message. If I went public, I'd be risking everything. My reputation, my future gigs, maybe even my safety. But silence was complicity, and I'd already spent months being erased. "Yes," I typed. "But I want to control the sound design of my episode." They agreed. Recording the interview was surreal. I sat in a small studio downtown, mic inches from my mouth, explaining how Marcus took my mixes, stripped my name, and sold them under his own. My voice shook at first, but then muscle memory kicked in the rhythm of storytelling, the honesty of sound. When the host asked, "Why not just sue?" I answered, "Because lawsuits are private, sound is public. He stole my voice, I'm taking it back." The episode was scheduled to drop Friday morning. By Thursday night, I was pacing my apartment like a caged frequency. Then another email. No subject. Just one sentence. "You release that episode, and I'll release yours." Attached. A video file. I clicked it. Grainy footage, shot through my studio window. Me, at my desk, crying recording one of my voice memos. The audio was muffled, but you could make out fragments. He stole my work. I don't know what to do. My blood went cold. He'd been recording me. For weeks, maybe. And now he was threatening to leak it, make me look unstable. Kiera, who was on FaceTime with me, saw my face change. "What is it?" she asked. I turned the screen toward her. She went pale. Then she said something that shifted everything. "He wants control of your narrative, so make it part of the story." It took me a moment to understand. Then it clicked. If he wanted to use my pain against me, I'd use it first. That night, I reopened Echo Chamber one last time. At the end, I added the footage of me crying, the same one he'd tried to weaponize, only I layered my own voice over it, calm and clear. "You can record me without consent. You can try to erase my name. But sound doesn't lie. It remembers." Then I added a distorted version of his own voice clip, the one from his studio promo video where he'd said, "We're getting gritty with the sound." I twisted it until it became a ghost of itself. I exported the final mix. Named it Echo Chamber, Final Cut. Friday morning, 8 a.m. The Inside Audio episode dropped. By 8:30, my phone was a hurricane of notifications. Number Justice for Noelle was trending. Audio engineers, producers, even Neon Network employees were calling out Marcus by name. People were dissecting his episodes, proving he'd reused my exact stems. At 10:17, Monarch Audio's official page went dark. By noon, Variety had picked up the story. Marcus Vale, industry darling, self-proclaimed audio visionary, was being investigated for plagiarism and fraud. And yet, I couldn't celebrate. Not yet. Because at 1:03 p.m., another email arrived. This one from Dana Patel, Neon's legal counsel. Miss Strick, thank you for your cooperation. We've terminated Marcus Vale effective immediately. However, as part of due diligence, we've discovered multiple uploads to your personal site that contain Monarch's proprietary materials. Please remove all such files within 48 hours or face legal action. I stared at the screen, jaw tightening. They were cutting Marcus loose, but still protecting his ghost. Corporate cleanup. And then, at the bottom of the email, one final line. For what it's worth, your mixes are incredible. It was meant to be a compliment, but it sounded like another erasure. Because incredible doesn't pay back stolen years. I closed my laptop, sat in the silence, and finally let myself cry, not from fear this time, but release. Outside, the city sounded softer, almost like it was listening. Then my phone buzzed again. A new message, from a name I didn't expect. Marcus Vale. You won this round. But you have no idea what you just started. I stared at Marcus's message until the text blurred. You won this round. But you have no idea what you just started. The timestamp said 1:27 a.m., meaning he'd waited until the whole internet had turned against him to make his move. Classic Marcus. Always too proud to lose quietly. I typed back, then deleted it. Then typed again, deleted again. What could I even say? Thanks for the threats, enjoy unemployment? Instead, I turned off my phone, closed my eyes, and promised myself I wouldn't respond. But of course, I did. Morning came, gray and heavy, like the city was holding its breath. Coffee burned my tongue. I barely noticed. Kiara called first thing. Have you checked your socials? She asked. No. Then brace yourself. I opened Twitter. There it was. A slickly edited video, uploaded by an anonymous account, already at 50,000 views. The title, The Truth About Noelle Strick. The thumbnail, a freeze frame of me crying at my desk. My heart stopped. He'd leaked it. The video spliced together clips from my stolen footage with voice memos, but out of order cut to make me look paranoid, unhinged. Each scene punctuated by captions like, self-proclaimed genius melts down after being fired. And over it all, Marcus's smooth voice narrated like a documentary. Some people can't handle success, some confuse obsession for art. I wish her well. I sat frozen as comments flooded in. Half believed me, half didn't. The same industry that had celebrated me 12 hours ago was now dissecting my face like I was an exhibit. Kiara came over within the hour, laptop under her arm, and fury in her eyes. He cut it like propaganda, she said. Classic misdirection. People love drama more than truth. I should have seen it coming, I said. You couldn't. He's been setting this up for months. She was right. Marcus didn't improvise, he curated. Every fake smile, every NDA clause, every press photo with my sessions blurred behind him. He'd been collecting material the whole time, waiting to weaponize it. Now he was trying to turn my narrative into his redemption arc. Not this time. By afternoon, I was back in my studio, blinds drawn, headphones on, fingers trembling over my keyboard. If he wanted a war of perception, I'd fight him in the one arena he couldn't fake. Sound. I opened Echo Chamber again, created a new track at the bottom, and titled it Feedback. Then I imported his leaked video's audio, isolated his narration, and compared it to older clips I had of him from Monarch meetings. His rhythm was off, too clean, too evenly spaced. It wasn't a new recording, it was AI generated. He'd synthesized his own voice to avoid any traceable copyright. Smart, evil, predictable. I exported both versions and ran a spectrogram analysis. The difference was clear. Synthetic frequencies at 14K hertz, like a fingerprint in neon. He wasn't just lying, he was fabricating. That night, I emailed Inside Audio again with the evidence. He used AI to fake his own voice and edit footage of me. I can prove it. The host, Lila, called me immediately. Noelle, this is huge, but we can't air it without permission to use his audio. I'm not asking you to air it, I said. I'm asking you to help me verify it. She sighed. You're still in this fight, huh? I didn't start it. He did. By the next morning, Lila's team had verified everything. Marcus's response video was 72% synthetically generated. The voice, the EQ curve, even the subtle breaths, all faked. We agreed to go public again, but this time with data, not emotion. A technical teardown. The episode went live that evening. Echo Chamber, Part 2, The Fabrication. It opened with Lila's voice. Last week, we told you about a sound designer whose work was stolen. Today, we expose how her abuser tried to rewrite reality. Then came the side-by-side comparisons. My real voice, his fake one, the AI fingerprints, the metadata. It was clinical, irrefutable. By midnight, number fake Marcus was trending. But victory never feels clean. Because even as the truth spread, so did the noise. Troll accounts flooded my mentions. Men with profile pictures of mixing boards telling me I'd ruined a man's career. Anonymous users claiming I'd faked the AI evidence. It was a feedback loop of outrage, and I could hear myself getting lost in it. Kiara texted, "Log off, please, they're baiting you." I didn't. I kept scrolling until I saw one comment that froze me. Funny how she talks about stolen work when she used copyrighted samples in her mixes. Wonder if the lawyers know that. Then another. Then 5 more. Each citing specific tracks, obscure sound effects, background ambiances, things I'd layered years ago, legally licensed under fair use. But the detail, the phrasing, it was too specific to be random. Marcus was seeding a new narrative, that I was the thief. At 3 a.m., I got another email, this time from Neon's new head of production. "Noelle, we're aware of new allegations regarding unauthorized assets in your past work. We're reviewing them. Until resolved, please refrain from public commentary." I laughed, loud, bitter, almost hysterical. They didn't care about truth, just liability. I called Kiara. "He's trying to flip it," I said. "Make me look like him. Then you flip it back." "How?" She paused. "You still have the original session recordings, right? The raw fieldwork?" "Yes." "Then make a documentary, a full one. Tell everything, start to finish. You control the sound, the pacing, the truth." I blinked at her through the dark FaceTime screen. A documentary. Not a podcast episode. A full-length audio feature. My side, my words, my proof. Noise floor to crescendo. For 3 straight days, I barely left my apartment. I recorded narration in single takes, voice raw, unpolished, cut between confession and composition, every truth punctuated with a sound I'd recorded myself. The hiss of the 52nd Street gym, the bell of the train, the hum of my own apartment heater. I called it Feedback Loop. The story of how a woman built an empire of sound only to have a man claim it, and how she reclaimed it one frequency at a time. When I finished, it ran 71 minutes exactly. Long enough to tell everything, short enough to keep people listening. I sent it to Lila first. She called me an hour later, crying. "It's the most haunting thing I've ever heard," she said. "Are you sure you want it out there?" "Yes." "Then when it drops, things will never go back to normal." "I don't want normal," I said. "I want resonance." The episode launched on a Sunday morning. By noon, it was shown on Apple Podcasts. By evening, journalists were quoting lines from it like poetry. By nightfall, Neon issued a full statement clearing my name and admitting systemic failure to credit independent artists. Marcus Vale deleted all his accounts. Monarch Audio's website redirected to a blank white page with a single word: silenced. But the story didn't end there, because fame brings new kinds of distortion. My inbox filled with collaboration, offers, interviews, brand deals. Everyone wanted a piece of the girl who beat the producer. Even when people praised me, it still felt like they were taking something. Turning my revenge into content. One evening, as I packed up gear for a new job offer in New York, I heard it again, a faint click outside my window. I froze, slowly walked to the blinds, peered through the gap. Nothing. Just the empty street, glowing under orange lamps. But then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. An audio file. No text. I pressed play. Marcus's voice distorted, glitching, almost robotic. Did you really think silence means I'm gone? The file ended with a low hum. Then, silence. I stood there, staring into the dark, my heart sinking to the beat of the hum. Was it real? A prank? A remix? Or was Marcus still out there, editing reality one more time? I didn't know, but I smiled, faintly, because if he wanted to haunt me through sound, he'd picked the wrong medium. I hit record. Voice memo entry 47, I said softly. He's back. Maybe. Or maybe it's just feedback. Either way, I'll capture it. A pause. Then, I've learned something. Revenge isn't the final mix. It's just the rough cut before peace. I saved the file, closed my eyes, and listened to the city exhale. The hum wouldn't leave. That low, electric sound from Marcus's final message, it kept replaying in my head, like tinnitus shaped into a threat. For days, I told myself it was just stress. Feedback. An echo that lived in my nerves. But one night, I noticed it wasn't just in my head, it was in my recordings. Every new project, every mic, I tested the same hum. Faint, but deliberate, hovering around 128 hertz. Too specific to be random. He'd found a way in again. I called Kiera at midnight. Listen, I said, playing her the file. After a few seconds, she said, "That's not line noise, it's encoded." I froze. Encoded how? Like data. Like an audio watermark. We ran the waveform through a decoder plugin. "Hello, Noelle." My breath hitched. He'd hidden a voice inside the noise. "Is it new?" Kiera asked, whispering like he could hear us through the cables. "I don't know. But if it's him, he's using old stems, probably ones he stole before everything blew up." "Then he's desperate," she said. "He's trying to haunt you through your own tools." "Then I'll haunt him back." The next morning, I reached out to Inside Audio again. They'd moved on to new stories, new scandals. But when I told Lila what I'd found, her tone changed immediately. "You think he's still manipulating the industry through sound?" she asked. "I think he's building a new identity under a different name." And I was right. A quick search confirmed it. A new podcast network in New York, run by someone called M. Vale Audio Systems. No face, no press, but the audio aesthetic was unmistakable. I downloaded their debut trailer. Same pacing, same transitions, same fingerprints. Marcus hadn't disappeared. He'd rebranded. That night, I made a decision. If he wanted to keep rewriting reality, I'd give him a remix he couldn't delete. I opened a blank session and titled it Dead Air. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was exposure as art. I layered the encoded hum first. Then, using a spectral analyzer, I mapped it into visual shapes that looked almost like his handwriting. Then I recorded a single line over it, calm and even. "Silence is never empty. It's where truth waits to be heard." I built a score around that voice. Not music, just frequencies. Each one taken from files he'd stolen, twisted, and buried. The mix was brutal and beautiful. A requiem for every unseen creative. When it was done, I uploaded it to my feed, with no tags, no context, just a black thumbnail and a caption. "This is what happens when you try to bury sound." Within hours, it spread like wildfire. People analyzed it, dissected it, slowed it down. Someone discovered the hidden hum carried his digital signature, the same watermark from M. Vale Audio Systems. He was caught again. A single sound had undone months of his rebuilding. The internet turned feral. By morning, his new company had been scrubbed from every platform. But unlike last time, there was no statement, no apology. Just silence. True silence. The day after, I walked to the Schuylkill River, the same place I'd recorded that poet years ago. The air smelled like iron and cold rain. I sat on the steps, phone in hand, and finally recorded a voice memo, the last one. Voice memo 100. Dead air achieved. He's gone, or at least, gone enough. Maybe I didn't destroy him. Maybe I just erased the version of him that thought he could erase me. I paused. And that's enough. For the first time in months, the city sounded clean. Like someone had cut the static out of the mix. A year later, I stopped calling myself a sound designer. Titles felt too small after everything that happened. Now, when people ask what I do, I say, I make stories you can feel before you understand them. Because that's what sound really is, emotion translated into vibration. After feedback loop and dead air, doors opened. Too many, honestly. I turned down most of them. Hollywood scripts, documentary deals, they all wanted to turn my pain into a product. Instead, I built something of my own, a community, a digital space called Provenance Audio Collective. A place where sound designers, editors, and engineers could upload their projects and automatically timestamp, watermark, and publicly credit their work. Free, open, immutable. The system was built on the very metadata Marcus once used to hide me. Now it protected everyone else. The irony wasn't lost on me. The first time a stranger uploaded their project and saw the verified creator tag pop up, I cried. Not because I'd beaten him, but because something good had finally come from the noise. Kiara still co-hosts with me sometimes. She jokes that I turned trauma into an API. Maybe she's right, but every time a young artist emails to say, "You made me feel seen," I know I didn't just get revenge. I rewrote the system. Last week, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Just a USB drive inside. Against my better judgment, I plugged it in. One file. Title: Apology, WAV. It opened with silence. Then a voice, rough, tired, older. Marcus. If you're hearing this, it means I finally stopped running. I don't expect forgiveness, but I heard your piece, dead air. You turned me into a ghost, Noelle. And I think that's what I deserved. He paused. You were right, sound remembers, even when people don't. Keep telling the truth, however ugly it sounds. Then, just before the file ended, a faint hum, the same 128 Hz's tone. Except this time, it wasn't threatening. It was steady, peaceful, like closure, humming in stereo. That night, I walked home under the L, recorded the city again. The rhythm of trains, the echo of laughter, the hiss of steam. I layered it all into one last track, my own ending. Title: Signal. A single line of narration over the mix. Every story ends in silence, but if you listen close enough, silence isn't the end. It's the moment before the next sound begins. I hit export. The final waveform stretched out across the screen. Smooth, balanced, beautiful. No distortion, no noise. Just truth. When I finally pressed play, I didn't hear revenge. I heard freedom. And for the first time since this all began, I smiled.